Imagine ruling a kingdom on the edge of the sea, knowing that the most powerful empire in the world is watching you, watching your ships, watching your soldiers, watching your decisions. And one day that empire decides that you, a woman ruling a small kingdom, have become a problem. So they send messengers, not to negotiate, not to understand, but to command you to submit. Now imagine what it takes to look at that empire and say, no. This is the story of Queen Teuta of Illyria, one of the most fearless and controversial women in ancient history, a ruler who dared to challenge the rising power of Rome itself. But her story is not just about war, it is about leadership, about pride, about courage, and about the dangerous cost of refusing to bow to power. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, because here, history is not just about the past. It is about the choices that still shape human behavior today. Our story begins in the 3rd century BC, along the rocky coastline of the Adriatic Sea. This region was home to fierce tribes known as the Illyrians. They were skilled sailors and fearless warriors who controlled the coastal lands that today form parts of Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, and Croatia. Unlike many ancient societies, Illyrian culture allowed women to hold real authority. And eventually that tradition produced one of the most remarkable rulers of the ancient world, a queen named Teuta. Teuta did not begin her story as the sole ruler. She was originally the wife of King Agron, the powerful leader of the Illyrian kingdom, known as the Ardii. Under Agron, Illyria grew strong. Its navy dominated the Adriatic Sea, its warriors defeated neighboring tribes and expanded their influence across the region. For a time, Illyria was becoming a rising power. But history often turns on unexpected moments. After a major military victory, King Agron reportedly celebrated with excessive drinking. Soon after, he became seriously ill and died. His sudden death left the kingdom without a strong ruler. His son was still too young to take the throne, so leadership fell to Queen Teuta, who became the regent of Illyria. Now imagine the situation she inherited. A powerful but unstable kingdom, ambitious enemies surrounding her borders, and the growing shadow of Rome, a republic rapidly expanding its influence across the Mediterranean. Many rulers in her position might have tried to appease Rome. They might have sought peace or submission, but Teuta made a different decision. She chose strength. The Illyrians had long relied on their navy to control the sea routes of the Adriatic. Their ships were fast and agile. Their sailors were bold, and their warriors were not afraid of conflict. But there was another reputation the Illyrians were known for: piracy. Illyrian ships frequently attacked merchant vessels traveling across the Adriatic Sea. To them, it was a normal part of warfare and survival. But to Rome, it was something very different. It was a threat to Roman trade. Roman merchants began complaining. Roman allies in the region demanded protection. And soon Rome sent diplomats to Illyria. Their message was simple: stop the attacks on Roman ships, control your sailors, or face the consequences. Now imagine that moment. A small kingdom, a powerful empire, and a queen being told what she must do. Teuta's response would become legendary. She told the Roman envoys that she could not stop individual Illyrian sailors from seeking their own opportunities at sea. Piracy, she argued, was not something the crown directly controlled. but one of the Roman diplomats reportedly pushed further. He warned her that Rome would not tolerate such behavior. According to ancient accounts, he even spoke to her in a tone that suggested Rome expected obedience. What happened next shocked the Roman world. As the envoys were leaving Illyria, one of them was killed. The details are debated by historians, but Rome believed the attack was carried out under Teuta's authority. Whether it was truly ordered by the queen or carried out independently remains unclear, but to Rome it did not matter. They now had a reason to act, and when Rome acts, it acts with overwhelming force. The year was 229 BC. Rome launched its first military campaign across the Adriatic Sea. A massive Roman fleet sailed toward Illyria. Legions of Roman soldiers followed. For Teuta, the situation quickly became dangerous. Her navy was strong, but Rome's resources were far greater. City after city began falling to Roman forces. Some Illyrian leaders abandoned her. Others surrendered. The war that had begun as a challenge to Roman authority was now turning into a desperate fight for survival. Teuta tried to resist. She continued to command her forces and defend her territory, but Rome's military machine was relentless. Eventually, the situation became impossible. Realizing that total destruction was near, Teuta sought peace. The treaty forced Illyria to surrender most of its territories. Its naval power was severely limited, and Rome established control over much of the Adriatic region. Teuta herself disappeared from history soon after. Some accounts suggest she lived the rest of her life in isolation. Others say she retained limited authority over a small part of her former kingdom, but her time as a major ruler had ended. At first glance, her story might seem like a simple defeat. A small kingdom challenging a giant empire and losing. But history is rarely that simple, because Teuta did something very few leaders ever dared to do. She stood up to Rome. At a time when the Roman Republic was becoming the dominant force in the Mediterranean, she refused to immediately submit. She defended her kingdom. She made decisions as a sovereign ruler, and she forced Rome to treat Illyria as a real opponent. But her story also reveals something deeper. Leadership is not only about courage, it is also about understanding consequences. Defiance can inspire people, but it can also provoke powerful enemies. Teuta's actions placed her kingdom on a collision course with the strongest military power of the ancient world. And once that collision began, there was no easy way to stop it. History remembers leaders for their victories, but sometimes the most fascinating leaders are the ones who dared to fight even when victory was uncertain. Teuta reminds us that courage and risk often walk together, and sometimes the line between heroism and disaster is incredibly thin. Even today, her story raises powerful questions. What does it truly mean to lead? When should a leader stand firm? And when should they choose caution instead? Because leadership is not just about bravery. It is about knowing which battles are worth fighting, and which ones might destroy everything you're trying to protect. In the end, Queen Teuta's story is not just about ancient wars. It is about the timeless struggle between power and independence, between pride and survival, between courage and strategy. Her name may not appear in many history books, but her story remains one of the most fascinating examples of a leader who dared to challenge an empire, and sometimes that alone is enough to make history remember you. If you enjoy powerful historical stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because here we uncover the forgotten moments where human decisions shaped the fate of entire civilizations. And now we want to ask you something. If you were Queen Teuta and the Roman Empire demanded submission, would you have resisted? Would you have resisted? Or would you have chosen peace to protect your people? Tell us in the comments, because sometimes the hardest decisions in history are the ones leaders must make alone.